If you're in a long-distance relationship and are finding it rather tough right now, then in this video, I'll share with you 7 tips to keep your LDR alive during the pandemic. Every day I hear from people in long-distance relationships who may be struggling with being so far apart for such long periods of time, especially during the pandemic. I have no doubt that the longer travel restrictions keep couples apart, the harder it becomes and the more fragile a relationship can become if we're not careful. I've seen some couples become stronger through these difficult times, but unfortunately, many have also found the length of time apart has been too much of an obstacle to overcome, and as such, have finished their relationships. Sadly, I've also seen and spoken to some people who have become rather depressed by the current situation, and they've failed to see any hope of ever being allowed to be with each other in person. One must know that depression can cause a person to see things rather differently than they otherwise would. So it's really important right now not to let yourself get to that point and reach out for help should you require it. Here are my 7 tips to keep your long-distance relationship alive during the pandemic. Number 1 is to take advantage of FaceTime or video calls. The more the two of you can connect through the pandemic, the more you'll feel closer to one another. As if distance alone isn't enough to deal with, now you have the fact that you can't just hop on a plane and be with each other. So FaceTime becomes even more important than it did before. The world now has this technology via many mediums that are free to use, such as Facebook, Skype, and a free version of StreamYard, which is fantastic because you don't need a super good connection to use it. I have a link in the pinned comment for those who are interested. So work out a schedule with each other around your daily routines and commitments, and find time to share face-to-face as much as possible. And if things in life pop up, as they can do, then be sure to communicate with each other and reschedule. Number 2 is to make time for one another, but it's not just that. One must make sure that when you guys are chatting together online, that you're fully present and in the moment, with no other distractions. This ensures that the two of you are focusing fully on what each other has to say, and it's showing your partner that they're important. What's the point of setting time aside for each other if we're distracted by our cell phone, TV, or other people who may be in the house? Be sure to turn off your cell phone, unless of course you're using it to video call with your partner. Turn off the TV, and if other people are in the house, do your best to choose a time when no one's home, or you can retreat to a quiet place to focus on your better half. Number 3 is to go deeper. Now by this I mean in conversation and understanding of one another. Many couples are finding that they may have more time than ever to be video calling one another. But even if you guys are doing FaceTime a couple of times a week, now is a great time to really learn and understand about each other much more. Learn about each other's life and what it's been like for them growing up, and what amazing and even not so amazing experiences they've had along the way. Find out about each other's family, friends, and work lives. But if you've already covered these things, then you don't want to be covering the same questions again. So look at some fun and interesting questions that will also give you a deeper look into your partner's mind. Questions like, what would their dream job be if they could choose anything in the world? If they could choose any animal, what would they be? And why would they want to be that animal? Or if they only had one meal left on this planet, what would it be? So you see, there are millions of other fun and interesting questions that you can ask your partner that will help you to see different sides of them, and where it won't be the same old predictable conversation every time. Number 4 is don't take your quality time for granted. If the pandemic has taught us anything, then certainly it should have taught us to never again take the time you guys have together for granted. For many, isolation and being away from each other for such long periods of time has been exceptionally tough. Be sure to use this as motivation to fully appreciate each other anytime you guys get together now or into the future. So the video calls that you guys have now during the pandemic, appreciate the fact that because of modern technology, you guys can actually see and interact with each other in real time. And when the pandemic finally ends and you guys are together, never forget these times and what it was like being forced to be apart. From this point on, cherish every moment that you guys have together, especially when your relationship may go through some difficult times in the future, which it most surely will. Number 5 is to text or message, but not excessively. What I mean here is that texting or using Messenger is fine for short conversations, but the problem with texting or messaging is that it's rather impersonal, and what you may say in the written word isn't always correctly understood, because we may not be able to gauge the tone or context our partner is trying to relay. Often, we may just type very quickly whilst thinking about something or doing something else, and as such, our partner misunderstands and we can have some issues. Be sure that any meaningful conversations are always kept for when the two of you can see each other in real time, and this will surely help to save you many unnecessary upsets as you navigate being apart right now. Number 6 is to recognise that little things go a long way. In a relationship, the little things are never seen as important. But in reality, many little things can and often do cause serious issues for couples, and in a long-distance relationship, this is even more important. Celebrating small milestones together can certainly bring the two of you much closer. You may have noticed that Filipinas love to share every monthsary, as they call it, to Facebook. This is simply her way of acknowledging how proud she is to be with you as time goes by, and she wants you and everyone else to know how she feels. Other things like sharing important dates together, such as birthdays and anniversaries, cannot be underestimated or forgotten. Be sure to take some time and do some planning and have a virtual date together when these occasions arise. You can be on camera with each other and share a romantic meal. Organise a gift for her that she'll receive in advance, or even some flowers that will be delivered just before your special virtual date. There are many more small things that I'm sure you can think of that will make a huge difference right now. So start brainstorming and see what you can come up with. Number 7 is not to forget how far you've come as a couple. Just think back to when you guys first got together as a couple and what life was like before then for each of you, and what love and joy you've brought into each other's lives, not to mention the hopes and dreams you guys now share for the future. Try and imagine for a moment, if you will, what would it be like if that person was no longer in your life? Then imagine what your future together will be like once you get past the challenges that COVID is presenting right now. The fact is, this pandemic will end at some point and borders will reopen and flights will resume. And if you guys have put in the time and effort right now, then you'll be sure to be rewarded in the near future. For more valuable information and tips to keeping your relationship strong, be sure to check out the playlist on screen now, and I'll see you in the next video.